You want to hear a deer story?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. I was in the stand, and I was sitting on the edge of a cornfield, a little pick cornfield, and a big thicket behind me. And I looked across the cornfield, and there was no dirt lane out the other side of the cornfield. And then there was a big field, and then big timber way across. But it was probably 500 yards over to that other timber. And this is rut, and I look out there, and I see a big buck coming across that field. He's 400, 500 yards away, and I can see his rack, so I know he's giant. Well, he's just coming my way. He's coming towards my cornfield, and I'm in that tree. Well, there's a dip in the field out there where he's at when he gets about 100 yards from that dirt road, and he goes down in that dip, and when he does, I got my rattling antlers, and I just turned around and just smacked them together as hard as I could, like I was trying to break them. And I just rattled only for about 15 seconds and then hung them up. Picked up my bow. And when I picked up my bow, I heard something behind me coming through the brush. Ka-chung, 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 you know. I mean, definitely a deer walking. And he's coming to the horns. But I don't know. He could have been a rat head. He could have been whatever, you know. And so I just kind of picked my bow up because I'm in a forked tree and I got to take my arrow like this, and I turn around and I'm looking behind me, and I got a shooting lane right there, and I'm looking behind me, and this deer's coming, and I can hear him in the leaves, you know, walking. It's real dead still walking, and he's getting close, and I'm starting to panic because it sounds like he's right under the tree, and I'm thinking, where in the world is he? All of a sudden he comes on the muleflora rose bush, and in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of them, and I've shot a lot of them, he was a 6x6 typical frame. We named him Willie, and I believe that he was world record without a doubt typical. And he's coming with his head down, and he's going to walk up 12 or 13 yards in my shooting lane. And just when he's getting close to that shooting lane, I'm getting ready to draw back, and he's got his head down, and he's just walking. And when just before, about 2 steps before he gets to my shooting lane, he just does a stutter step and turns and starts walking away from me. He wouldn't go through that opening. He just walking away from me, and he went down into this waterway, and I couldn't see him through the brush, and I thought he was going down the waterway. Well, I panicked. You know how you do, because a buck like that, I'd ever seen in my life, and unbelievable. And so I just reach over and grab my antlers that are hanging right there, and I just just click them a little to stop him and maybe bring him back. Well, he never went anywhere. He was only about 25 yards down there standing in the brush. I just couldn't see him. And when I clicked those antlers, that big rack, he was probably 24, 25 inside. I mean, he just whirled around and looked right up at me.
Oh.
He just looked at me like that, and then jumped waterway, run up on this little side of the bank and stood there and looked back at me. I'm a 6x6, 10-inch brows, 14-inch 2s, 13-inch 3s, 10, 11, 12-inch 4s, 5 or 6-inch 5s. Well, just add it up.
Yeah.
And clean. There's no nothing. And he takes off, and I am just sick that I screwed that up. So I lift my bow up, and I turn back around in the field, and I go to hang my bow up, and I look out in the cornfield, and here comes the one I rattled at. He's about 60 yards coming right at me. And he's 175 plus inch deer. He's so as I'm picking my bow around, you know, I see him, and I start inching around. I don't want him to see me moving. And when I did, I bumped those antlers just a little bit, and I obviously loosened them on the hook that they was hanging on, and they fell. Blam! They hit the platform of my stand. They went straight. I was on a fence line, and they hung in the fence, rattling and shaking around like that, and he just threw the brakes on. Just looking at those antlers in the fence, and he just raised his head straight up and looked at me up there in the tree. Off he goes. Runs out in the middle of the cornfield, looks back and blows a couple more times, crosses the road, gone. I screwed 5 or 80-inch deer and a 210 or 20-inch typical, all because you lose your mind when those big deer get in on you. And that was how you lose.
Oh my word.
That happened to me right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that picture is just ingrained in your brain at this point.
It is. And, Willie disappeared. I mean, we only saw him one other time, and he just disappeared. I don't know whatever happened to him. We had never seen him. This is November. We had never seen him before that day. And we had 5 or 6 bucks that we were seeing that were all world-class typical deer. We were hunting behind the Clinton Power Station before they ever had a special hunt there, and we had a piece of property that we could hunt that nobody else could hunt. We got permission. And they were coming off. It's like hunting up against no hunting.
Yeah.
No hunting. Hundreds and hundreds of acres. There was a buck we called Whitey that was a mega giant, 11-point typical, that was in the 90s, if not 200. Willie, the one I ended up killing, that was is 212 gross. And then another big 10 that was just unbelievable. Wally was an 11-pointer. He was as big as Willie. He was maybe even a little heavier, but he wasn't a 6x6. He was a 6x5.
Mm-hmm.
All those bucks back then, and that was the absolute best few years of big buck hunting, seeing big bucks that I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Take me